Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 252, recorded on Friday, May 26th, 2023. I blessed the CRMs down in Africa. From Zenatta Consulting, I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
Yes, we shall do that. We've got a lot of news to cover this week. Tyler, how's your week?
Pretty good. Been catching up on a couple doctors and dentist appointments that I procrastinated on for a while in Cincinnati. So just getting those knocked out. Otherwise, looking forward to a long weekend.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, I have had nothing happen this week, so why don't we just get right on into announcements and events?
So let's do it.
All right. So, as always, you can find out all the events going on in the world of Zoho by heading over to club.zenatta.com. And then, right there on the homepage under upcoming events, you will see everything that is coming up in the world of Zoho. That's not just our events, but Zoho's events. And then, running down the left hand side under announcements and events, they are all broken down. So, it looks like 3 new ones were added in for Zoho this week. You can go check out those. And then you can look at the overall Zenatta events, CRM Zen Show. We've got a big one though, Zoho Flow full product overview coming up on June 20th. That will be our June webinar. And if you haven't already, please head over to club.zenatta.com and join our community. It's free. Just got to give us your email. Then you'll get on our newsletter mailing list and you can go ahead and join in the community and do things like, read all the news before we cover it on the show, or ask us a question for Azaz, or catch up on all the old Azaz episodes, or just join in on the general discussion, ask a question, and someone in the community or one of us will help you out. And that is all over at club.zenatta.com. And with that, Tyler, let's jump straight on into the news. So the title of the show, borrowed from Toto, is happens to be because Zoho has opened a new office in Kenya. But that's kind of interesting article. Will not pursue product development. It's a sales office that they've opened in Kenya. So they are continuing to expand all through the world, and of course with Africa. I was reading down here. I think I highlighted somewhere. This now puts Zoho in Egypt, Nigeria, and South Africa. So they're kind of covering as much of Africa as they possibly can. So pretty good as they continue to expand. I don't know if they've got a data center there yet, but my guess is that would probably be the next thing, Tyler.
Yeah, I know they're kind of over the past couple of years have been targeting a lot of additional regions. I know kind of like Middle East was a big target, right? We saw a lot of these types of stories last year and the year before about kind of opening offices and data centers there. So nice to kind of spread the footprint, right? I mean, especially given that Zoho is a really cost-effective option, right? And in
Yep.
countries with more developing economies, it might be a great option for businesses there that kind of need these tools, but might not want to pony up for Salesforce, HubSpot, things like that. So yeah, kudos to Zoho. Keep it going.
Yeah, pretty good here. We got a mix of logos on this pictures if you're watching us on YouTube. We got the old logos on a banner over here on the side, and then they're about to cut the new logos. I like that neon sign back there, though.
Actually get
Kind of
one
see
of
that
them.
up
Yeah,
in
I'm
the corner there.
jealous.
That's
Makes me
pretty.
jealous.
That's pretty spank right there, man. All right, moving on. New features being rolled out for Zoho Analytics. Tyler, one of your favorite applications. So we're going to start with ChatGPT integration. This is actually what to help you write formulas
Yeah, I mean,
and
there's a
queries.
couple things. One thing that they've said is creating formulas and SQL queries. That's great. I mean, SQL is obviously a relatively universal coding language. So while ChatGPT might struggle a little bit with Deluge, it's going to ideally be pretty darn good at SQL. Also, being able to reference the data tables that you have in analytics give you really accurate outputs, right? If you're kind of doing this from natively within analytics. Again, put an asterisk on that. I've not read through in detail the kind of like data sharing policies going on here in
Yeah.
terms of my understanding is that ChatGPT cannot use your data to train its own model. It can only use it in the context of what you're asking it. But I am not a lawyer and I didn't read that too finely. But if you are concerned about that, I would say do a little bit of additional research just to be safe.
All
Advanced
right. And
analytics
then,
for big commerce. This is kind of like the third one, right? The big two in the world of e-commerce, obviously being Shopify and WooCommerce. Big commerce is kind of, I've seen it add some market share, kind of grow a bit over time. Having this direct connection just makes life easier, right? If you want to be able to pull these types of reports
Yeah.
against
This
that e-commerce data.
this seems like the biggest one right here, Tyler. Incremental fetch of data for databases.
Yeah, so this is kind of in a specific use case. So this is primarily when you're syncing data from a cloud database, maybe, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure. One of the challenges with those syncs is that you're working with a massive amount of data occasionally in those databases. And Zoho's cloud import tool could run into some issues occasionally with pulling full refreshes, right? And it matters over time, right? Let's say on day one of this integration, you have 100,000 records. Well, what about on day 400, right? Your database could now be 200,000, 500,000 records, depending on what it is that you're tracking. So this essentially is a way to say, hey, for the ongoing syncs, don't try to pull the whole data set every time and crash yourself. Just pull these new records, right? Based on a certain identifier. In this case, they're showing like an order ID. That's nice to have. It's a stability thing more than anything else, just to make sure that those syncs don't end up breaking when they get too big.
Yeah, very, very nice. Then we've got a couple around email notifications. So they have one basically, if you have continuous import failures, you can now choose to inform all the workspace admins, where in the past you could only the registered email user would come in. So that's kind of nice. And then another one on emailing views. So if you're sending out basically you can now add CCs, which you couldn't do before. I thought that was in there. So I imagine those are rather helpful.
Yep, why not?
And then Zia will now explain the data that you're looking at on a chart. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you have a couple line charts or fill charts here. And, if you're looking at it and you're confused, well, you can ask Zia to go ahead and explain what you're looking at on the chart, which I think is helpful. Or maybe you should just make a better chart. I don't know. Thoughts?
I agree with the premise there. I mean, things like this are useful, but it's always, you're going to have insights to this data that Zia isn't going to ever have, right? If you had a quarter that was a little slower, Zia isn't going to know that that could be because of a banking crisis, right? So
Right.
you're always going to need to kind of take the data into your own perception, but a nice way to get some of the highlights from it there a little more easily.
Yeah. And now you can ask Zia geosystem synonyms. So basically, I guess it is now understanding Alpha 2 code and 3 code, such as USA, IND, and give you the right answers. And it looks like the example here, sales by state for USA. So before it was unable to basically determine country codes, but could do state codes.
Yeah, it depended. It's really depends on like how you had the data formatted. So it's basically saying there's two more ways that you could format your geographical data and have analytics understand it, which is great. It just means that like if that's how your data already is set up, you don't need to adjust it, right, to use this feature, which is obviously a big part of geographical mapping is normalization of the data, right? Making sure that everything is exactly the right way for the kind of mapping tool on the back end to put it in the right place. So yeah, that's a nice one to have. Just ease of use, right?
Yep. And now you have a SQLite connection, which I guess it could not connect to an SQLite database before. Now you
Yep.
can. Yep. And you've got variable support for Windows functions. You want to explain this one?
Essentially, if you're building like, let's say, an aggregate function, right, and you're going to use it in a variety of different reports, you can now pull in like system-defined variables, like, essentially against these formulas. Pretty a rare use case. Most of the time, your formulas are going to be using the data inside of that report or data set, but again, doesn't hurt to have it.
And then some more built-in functions. So analytics has two new or inbuilt functions. To email, which helps you convert text columns in email format to an email data type, and round duration, where you can round off duration values. You can now white label. This is part of the whole trusted domain white label has been added in. I guess that's very nice. Anything else? And I guess that's it. Yes,
That's about it. Yeah. Shout out to
that's it.
Zoho for round durations. Again, that one is not a transformative change, but oh man, that is nice. just from a simplicity sake, if nothing else.
All right, and moving on, we also have the updates for Zoho Flow for basically what's happened in May. I kind of went through these, Tyler. If you don't know, Zoho Flow is Zoho's own version of Zapier. It works with a lot of internal Zoho applications, but also with a lot of external applications as well. And I guess it's been 5 years now, Tyler.
Yep, five
Crazy.
years.
Crazy. So I thought, going through, you can now export your task history, restart flows. They have folders for organizing your
Thank
flows, which is
goodness for folders.
just huge.
Holy moly, folders should have been in this product for years now. We'll take it,
Yeah.
right? We'll take it. But yeah,
Yeah.
folders great to have. Restarting flows. This is one that they've kind of done over time, but they're
Yeah.
continually making the restart work more and more how it should have the whole time. Essentially, actually trying the new version of the flow. But yeah, folders is a huge one, right? You might have 5 flows related to sales, 5 flows related to operations, right? Now you can bucket those into groups. Of course, we need that. I mean, it's not rare, right, for a client to have 20 flows in their account that are doing various little automations and actions for them. So organizing those, great to have. Custom functions list, another one that's just, wow, this is great. Should have been in there from day one, but we'll take it. Essentially, the only way you could edit a function in Flow before this was to find it inside of an existing flow. So you'd have to open up a flow, go to the options, act like you're going to add the function to the flow. Then you can make the update. You could still do it, but just a little bit of a pain in the butt. And
Yeah.
then the last one here, again, date
Yes.
format conversions. Obviously, at Zenatta, we do a lot of things in Deluge, so we're pretty comfortable just changing dates around however we need it. But a lot of people want to use Flow without having to know Deluge, right? It's kind of the
Right.
goal of Flow is set up an automation without having to do coding. Date formats, kind of a running joke at Zenatta. Dates and date times are always a pain in the butt. Different Zoho apps want them to look different. So being able to just define that formatting here, I mean, thank you. Thank you, Zoho. That's
Yeah.
going to save lots and lots of time.
Very, very cool. All righty, and then moving on, Zoho Recruit now has its own little chat bot for conversational hiring. So this is not SalesIQ, Tyler. This is its own separate chat bot.
Looks like it. Looks like
Looks
they've
like
built
it.
their own.
Yep.
It looks a lot like a Zobot. It's probably
Yeah.
built on the shell of a Zobot, I would have to assume. But yeah, nice things there. I mean, you can chat through it. You can have a kind of a bot or user chatting with a potential candidate. They
Yep.
can drop it in multiple different attachments at once, and you can kind of request that through it. Compliance steps, you can kind of do certain privacy disclaimers, things like that. Again, great to have. They've got like an expanded job list, which you can kind of see all the available jobs as well as descriptions for all of them. I mean, again, great to have.
Yep.
Yep. So nice update for recruit there. It's
Yeah.
they've added kind of a lot here.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Rather than, I mean, I would think you would just go to a website and like, I'm trying to understand the advantages to this, right? I go to a website, I see all my job listings, and I understand what's going on there. And if I want to apply, I can look at them and go through them. It's just kind of odd. I'm trying to understand
Yeah, it
what
might
the
be, if
advantage would
someone's
be of
going to
using a chat.
apply, let's imagine you see these 3 job openings, because I know this is when they added to this bot a while back. I might give it some of my skills and qualifications. Maybe it could suggest me, hey, these 2 are ones that you
There
might
you
be a
go.
good fit for. And then you can kind of
Okay.
just apply right through that interface. I'd imagine really nice if you are like in the recruiting space and these candidates are essentially leads for you and you're really trying to increase the like capture and throughput. Making it easier for them to interact with you is always a good thing, right?
Very nice. All right. And moving on, Zoho Writer is now integrated with Bigin. If you were unfamiliar, Bigin is Zoho's started to be a very stripped down Kanban style CRM, designed kind of from mobile up. Thinking of that, and over the years, it's just been getting more and more functions that make it, you know, getting on parity with the actual Zoho CRM. And this is a big one as it relates to that because you now have Zoho Writer integration, meaning you can actually have templates and build those templates based off data that lives inside Bigin and push it over, create your documents, create invoices. There's all sorts of things you can now do directly in Zoho Writer from Bigin, which is basically, if you're watching us on YouTube, or even if you're listening to this, if you use Zoho CRM, there's nothing new here. You can do all of this in CRM. They've now just put it into Bigin,
I mean,
which
why
is,
not, right? If it's going to have a
I know.
books integration, it might as well be able to do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, they seem to just be adding really most of the things that CRM can do, other than kind of custom modules and some of that bigger customization into Bigin.
Yeah. Fantastic. I'd love to know what the adoption is on Bigin. Where they're at with that. I mean, we have got some implementations of it, but mostly it's people who have Zoho One, and the Bigin part just goes for the field organization or for the outside sales force. Um, but and there's that synchronization now between Bigin and CRM that's actually rock solid now. I just love to see what kind of uptick they have on this application, but I don't think they released those numbers. All right, moving on. Um, Talk to me about this. So you now have additional writer integration tasks in Deluge.
Yeah,
So
and so an integration task in Deluge is a very specific thing, right? It's basically a mask that Zoho puts that you can use that basically gives you an easier way to hit an existing API endpoint. So a lot of the things that are on this list are things you could already do accessing the API directly, but it's just more complicated, right? To set up a kind of traditional API call rather than use one of these integrated functions. So it's like in CRM, you have like a create record function that you can just use. You could obviously use the create record API, but it would just be more lines of code. So these are essentially just a bunch of new additions to the kind of those masked functions to make using the API a little bit easier working with Writer, which is always good, right? If you can lower
yeah,
that skill floor on Deluge, it means more people can do it, right? Which is just a win-win for everybody. So yeah, good job to the Writer team. There are, I don't know, I don't think I'm allowed to talk about them. There are some more API endpoints that are going to be launching. So hopefully we'll cover in the next couple months here that are going to be awesome within Zoho Writer. So I'll put that out there as a little teaser.
fantastic. All right. And moving on, Zoho Desk has partnered with Microsoft 365 M365 Copilot for seamless integration on service experiences. Um, so I really have not played around too much with Copilot on in Microsoft Teams. But basically, now you do have full integration. So if you're watching us on YouTube, they're running a little thing where you basically just say, create a ticket, and it's going to go ahead and inside Copilot launch a Zoho, pull up Zoho Desk, pull up the information that was sitting there on basically the chat window, and pop it on in and allow you to create a ticket. Have you ever used Copilot before, Tyler?
Never used it. I try to stay away from Microsoft products whenever I can. I not a huge fan.
But evidently, this is a real partnership. I guess so. It was announced at Microsoft conference, and so very good. We now have at the M365 build event. This was announced. So Zoho Desk now has looks like pretty good integration into Copilot. So there you go. If you're a Copilot user and you're a Zoho Desk user, rejoice. And moving on, WhatsApp. Everybody loves WhatsApp. So now, if you have Zoho Forms and someone fills it out, you can actually do some integration there and get notifications on WhatsApp. I guess that basically someone's filled out your form or what they've said on the form, those kind of things.
Yep,
So
exactly.
you
Looks
got,
like you could do an internal notification or customer facing using WhatsApp. So similar to how you could like trigger an email or a text. Why not, right?
and you can now, when it also says that you can also use it for WhatsApp OTP, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if you played around with this or not. I was actually talking with Greg yesterday about this, but I was building out a form, and Zoho Forms now allows you to force um, authentication before a person has access to the form at all. So you can say, how do you want it? Do you want to get a text code? Do you want to get an email code? Now it's a WhatsApp code, I would guess as well. Um, and so basically when the person clicks the link to go fill out a form, it's just a box that says, hey, give us, how would you like to receive a code to access this form? Which will really cut down on spam tremendously, I would think.
Yeah,
So
totally.
it's kind of cool. It's not very pretty. So that whole
Mhm.
OTP thing that they built into forms, it kind of takes you to like a pretty ugly page. You can't really put any. You can kind of customize the message, but it's not great. So
Yeah.
it'd be nice if you could have a little more control over what that page you're redirecting them to, where you're asking them for an email or a phone number or WhatsApp ID looks like. But still a nice feature to have, because I will tell you, forms on websites are just nothing but magnets for spammers, man. I just love to go there and just post garbage all day long, and I have no idea what they think they're getting out of it. But anything you can do to stop them is good, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
And moving on, you can now get instant payments while you're in chat with Zoho Sales IQ with the Zoho checkout integration. So you're chatting with somebody and they say they want to buy your product. You basically can just, while you're in the middle of a chat, go ahead and send them a link that will show them, that allow them to go make a payment. That's
Yeah,
kind of it.
why not?
Just sends you
Cool.
right there.
Get the
Sends it over to
close
Zoho
right then and
checkout.
there, right in the chat.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty
Pretty
nice.
slick.
There you go. And that is going to wrap up the news for the week, Tyler. So with that, let's head on over and talk about our implementation of the week.
Alrighty, so yeah, this is an implementation, a pretty nice one. I'm kind of surprised that we hadn't done it yet, honestly, when this kind of popped up on my radar. This was built by Ben and Alex, two great members of our team. And this implementation is essentially building out an XML related list in CRM to show purchase orders that are related to a deal. So we've been having lots of fun with these XML related lists. It's essentially a way to put a list on any record where you're referencing data that doesn't need to be inside of CRM in any way. All that you really need is to have some type of matching parameter on that record so that you can know what needs to be shown within like a certain deal or contact. So in this particular use case, the client is using CRM as well as Zoho Books. They're using the deals to kind of manage their pipeline. And then once they're ready to sell, they are using the estimates and sales orders that are in Books via that deal integration, right? So you can kind of send it directly from the deal. The only challenge is that for this client, the vast majority of their orders are for things where they're not carrying inventory. So the normal use case is essentially to back order it, right? We sell it, right when we sell it, we submit that PO and get it shipped either to us or directly to the customer location. But the challenge is if I'm a salesperson and a week after that sales order gets confirmed, my customer calls me up and they say, where is our purchase at, right? Do you have it yet? Is it on its way to me, right? All those different steps. The challenge for that salesperson is that in the CRM, they don't have access to that purchase order data by default, right? So they don't really know. They have to go into Zoho Books. They have to find the sales order. They got to go to the right PO, right? It's a bit of a process. So to solve for this, all we had to do was write a quick function inside of Zoho Books where when a purchase order is created, it looks at the sales order that it was created from and the deal linked to that sales order and just puts the deal ID in a field in the purchase order. So now we have that match, right? Now we can find any purchase orders based on a particular deal. So all we had to do next was create that XML related list, kind of pick which fields are going to show up, right? The purchase order number, the estimated delivery date, the status, right? Whatever we need to have in that list. And then we can just display it there right on the deal so that now when that customer calls in and wants to know our, purchase status, we don't need to do anything other than open up that deal and it's right there in front of us. So yeah,
Beautiful.
great implementation, Ben and Alex. This is like a great example of a use case of those XML related lists. Because the alternative here is to create a custom purchase order module and write a function where every time a PO is made in Books, we copy that whole thing into CRM, right? And every time it's updated in Books, we have to push the update over, right? It ends up being this whole scripting exercise just to keep these two lists in sync. So doing it this way was super clever. Again, great build to the guys. solves this in a much more straightforward way where we're not having to duplicate a bunch of data in two places.
Fun with XML related lists. When did we first
Yeah.
start using them? A year ago, year and a half ago, 2
About
years
a year,
ago?
yeah, a year ago or so, we
Yeah.
started kind of
I mean,
dipping
it's a
into them.
big solve for people who just want a down and dirty QuickBooks integration as well, where if they've got
Yeah,
QuickBooks Online and they just want to, they're in an account and they want their people to be able to see if there are any open invoices, those kind of things.
yeah.
We've got a lot of great use cases for that. So, like you said, great job, Ben and Alex. And with that, let's move on over to our code share of the week. All righty, this is from Greg. This is using regex, regular expressions, to find an order number in a desk email body. So what Greg basically is describing here is you've got an email that's come into Zoho Desk and you wish to search for an order number. And he's basically saying, if the order numbers have a, standard. Basically, this was from a question on a Zaz that he answered. What was this last week? I think you were out, Tyler, but Greg
Yeah.
had this question on Azaz, answered this question, and now he's just basically taken it one step further, and he's explaining exactly how you can do it. So there's the
Yeah,
code.
nice implementation. Uses a couple things. Uses the get latest thread API, which essentially gets you
Yep.
the content of the email that would have generated the ticket. And then all that regex is a way to programmatically search for certain formats. So something like an order number, like you mentioned, Brett, it's like it should be about the same format every time. In this case, it's like DP and then 8 numbers. And so you can create a regex expression that looks for any occasions of DP and 8 numbers, right? And we find one, we can assume that's our order number, and then we can do whatever we need to with it. So yeah, good job, Greg, and good question, Daphne. This sparked a
Yeah,
nice little code share.
very good. We care here at Zoho or Zenatta. All right, moving on. Let's head on over to Zenatta and see what's new over there. Hey, we've got a great case study for this month. We try to put one of these out every month. This is from TV Pros. Want to thank Bubba for shooting this over to us. Basically, just they're a great little client, and we've been working with them for a while and doing some database migration, improving their CRM. And this is a
Yeah,
good one
lots.
from a case study perspective, I think, because it's real world, just whole bunch of things that I think as a company like this, the service company, this is it really just we cleaned up everything they did and it turned out exceptionally well. So
Yeah, and a
shout out
big,
on this.
big, big build out here on the inventory side of the house, right? So
Yep.
tons of automations for creation of POs, creation of invoices, creation of packages, shipments, splitting out orders. I mean, like all different types of permutations on like turn an SO into these 5 records or split it by vendor or, you know, gosh only knows. Yeah, just tons and tons and tons here of automations on the books and inventory side of the house.
Yep. So thank you again, Bubba. And then our
And shout out
blog
to
of
Cody, who's been working with them
yeah,
along this
Cody. And I think did
project.
is that all Cody, little John in here too, or is this Cody?
Cody and I think John, yeah, on some of the finance side of the house, the accounting piece.
Fantastic. Good job, guys. All right. And then moving on, we have a blog Zoho Forms versus Gravity Forms, which is better. And this will kind of step you through the differences and basically kind of take you through the two. To me, I think they're both extremely excellent applications. For Gravity Forms, being that is all that it does, if you're using WordPress, it's a WordPress only kind of form builder. Um, it is, I mean, it's exceptional in what you can do with it, but Zoho Forms has come so far recently, and you can do so much with it as well. And if you're using Zoho CRM, I really kind of recommend people go that direction. But
Yeah.
Gravity Forms is also exceptionally good. But I love where Zoho Forms has gone, especially now that they've got the cards in there, so you kind of get that whole type form look and feel now. The page breaks, the formatting, the way you can clean it up. There's some good stuff there as well. But if you're
And if
trying to
you're on
decide between
Zoho
the two,
One, it's one of those apps where, just save some money, right? Most of the time, whatever you're doing in your form builder, you can likely do in Zoho Forms. There are a couple, like one that can be tricky. Ninja Forms can create a particularly beautiful form. Just the UI of it, the look and feel of it.
Right.
They do a really good job on that. But honestly, with something like Gravity Forms, it's a great tool, but there's very little that it can do that Forms can't at this point. So yeah, if you're paying for it and you've got Zoho One, just take a look at Forms. You might be able to save yourself a couple bucks a month.
Pretty sure you will. All righty. And with that, let's head on over to our tip of the week. So Wayne has put this together. This is a Zoho campaigns tip, and he's going to take you through several little processes on this video. It's 8 minutes long, almost 9 minutes long, but he's going to go through and basically how to create a campaign, set up a workflow for internal notifications based on a click. So basically, when you send the campaign out, if you've got some URLs in there that your calls to action that you're wanting people to click on, when they click on that link, you will get an email letting you know that someone actually clicked on a link inside of your campaign.
Yep.
Just one way of getting notifications. You can also have scoring rules around this that if you're using the CRM, that write back to the CRM and keep tabs on how many times they clicked and opened and all those kind of things as well. But this is kind of down and dirty. Especially if you're sending something out where it's a real call to action, and the only reason people are going to click is if they're interested in buying. Probably worth taking a look at.
Yep. And in here, I think he shows both ways you can do it. You can either make a task against the CRM record, right? And say, hey, they click this, let's chase them, have the sales team follow up. Or you can send an email, right? Based on them taking certain actions. So nice little quick video, a little over 8 minutes. So yeah, kind of a quick watch. But if you are using campaigns, a good one to have in your back pocket.
And as always, all of our videos are over on our YouTube channel. So if you head over to youtube.com/Zenatta, you can catch up with all of the content that we put out. And while you're over there, please subscribe to our channel and hit that little bell to get reminders every time we drop a new video. So that is over again at youtube.com/Zenatta. That's where we keep all of our stuff. And with that, Tyler, let's wrap this show up, huh?
Let's do it. Yeah. It's good. Good show. There's a lot of news. A lot of news in the world of
A
Zoho.
lot of news. And we
Some of
actually
them as
left
well, guys.
out.
We do have our newsletter. We don't conclude every single story. There were actually 4 or 5 that we did not have time to include today. So check out the newsletter if you want to see everything else this week. But yeah, busy week for the Zoho team.
Yes, it was. All right, everyone. I want to thank you so much for stopping by. And if you would like to get a hold of myself or Tyler or the Zenatta team, please head over to zenatta.com and click on book a meeting, and we will be happy to chat with you.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes of the show, as well as links to all the stories we discussed today. If you want that news delivered straight to your inbox every Monday, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. And as always, we would love and appreciate if you would like and subscribe here on YouTube, as well as your choice of podcast app. We'll see you next Friday.